Well, we're delighted to have what may be right now the busiest man in show business in St. Louis, anyway, Ron Himes. Welcome to Two on the Aisle.
Welcome.
Good to have
Thank
you.
you.
You're, as I gather, you're being in two places at once right now.
Right.
You're doing a show at the Rep.
Right. I'm acting in the show at the Rep.
Acting in the show, which is what?
All the way.
The show about
About
Lyndon Johnson.
LBJ. The show about LBJ. Yes.
And who are you playing there?
And I play Ralph Abernathy.
The big civil rights leader.
Right. Martin Luther King's right hand and collaborator and good friend.
Who's playing King?
Um,
Someone from out of town.
Avery Glimpf.
Okay.
Yeah, the wonderful young actor from New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, I mean, is a big
Well,
part
the
in
play takes place, it's 11 months. It's from 11 months from the Kennedy assassination to the election, to Johnson's election as president, to the campaign, And so all of, the Civil Rights Act is a central part of Johnson's maneuvering to position himself to be the Democratic candidate.
From what I've heard about him, that maneuvering must be fascinating.
Oh yeah, he was quite a negotiator, and you know, very skilled, but very passionate about the Civil Rights Act and, you know, his war on poverty that came later. And, you know, really had his struggles in trying to sway the Dixiecrats and not lose the Southern, you know, faction of the party as he pushed this bill that, you know, the party had basically been gutting for decades. I think that's one of those things you have to explain to young people, isn't what a Dixiecrat was, that there were actual Democrats from the South. Exactly, who had a different perspective.
But then the other thing you're doing is your own theater.
Right, I'm directing our opening production, which is a remount of Tell Me Something Good. And so I'm directing it, and I rehearse all day on All the Way, and then I'm directing all evening, every day on.
And you have somebody who's doing your sleeping for you on the side.
I get a little bit of that in.
Oh, you do get it for yourself. Good. Well, tell me more about Tell Me Something Good. Tell me something good about Tell Me Something Good.
Tell Me Something Good is it's perhaps the most popular, or has been the most popular musical at the Black Rep. It is the show that more people than any come into the lobby to say, when are you going to do Tell Me Something Good again?
Really?
I call it our Muni show. You know, people could see it
every 5 years.
Right, people could see it. And so we've done it a number of times, and this is actually the first time that we're doing it with none of the original company members.
Wow.
So we've got 4 new female singers, 4 new male singers, and we have 1 dancer who's done it before, but she was not in the original company.
Now, when was the original one?
1997.
Wow,
1997, we were actually scheduled to do a production of The Wiz. And we had announced it, and about mid-season, they pulled the rights to The Wiz because it was getting ready to go back out on tour. And so there we were saying, okay, well, what are we going to do? And so we had done an earlier version of a show called Dressing Up, Stepping Out, and Getting Down on 23rd Street. And so Tell Me Something Good really came out of that production.
So this is like a review kind of show.
It's an R&B review.
R&B.
So it starts with street corner a cappella doo-wopping in the 50s. And it goes all the way up through the 90s. It ends with the Boys to Men song, End of the Road. But we go from the 50s through Aretha Franklin, through Motown, through the 70s, and
so if people are familiar and like the popular music of that area, there should be nothing to keep them from the theater.
It is a multi-generational show.
I was going to say, that's a good spread.
Right. I mean, you know, parents can come with their children and their parents, and that's been the experience. I mean, it's really, the following of it has been, there are times when if it had 16 performances in a run, there were people who saw it 12 times.
Oh my goodness.
The performers used to always laugh because, you know, it was sort of the company of Drummond Crenshaw, Jay Samuel, Greg Taborn, and Chucky Flowers. And they would see, those guys were always intact, and the women changed 2 or 3 times. But there were people, they knew all the songs, they knew the choreography, and so.
Now, who's choreographing this time?
Lizette O'Brien Rayford, who has choreographed all the productions.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so she actually just got back in town to remount the choreography. Jim Burwinkle, the original set designer, is, modifying the set.
He's worked with you a lot.
Oh, yes, over 20 years,
Yeah.
since the St. Louis Avenue days.
Yeah.
And Daryl Harris, who originally did the costumes, is doing costumes again.
And who's music
And then
director?
Charles Kreth is the
Charles
musical
Kreth.
director, yeah.
Yeah, again, a regular. How big a group does he have?
It's a five-piece band.
Five-piece band.
Yeah, five-piece band and 8 singers and 2 dancers.
2 dancers,
Yeah.
okay, great. And this will be in the Edison Theater at WashU, right?
Right, it'll be at the Edison Theater September 2nd through September 20th.
Okay, so we need to talk a little more about you and WashU. I mean, I know you went to school there, so this goes back a long way.
Right.
But now you're from student to faculty type.
Right,
person,
I'm the Henry E. Hampton Artist in Residence.
There we go.
And so I have a joint
That's an
appointment.
impressive title.
It's a very, very, yes, and I'm honored. But I have a joint appointment in African and African American Studies and the Performing Arts Department. So I teach one course each semester, and I direct occasionally for the Performing Arts Department.
Right, yeah. And so you have even more involvement there as the black rep.
Right, so now the black rep is moving in residence, as all 3 shows this season will be performed at Edison Theater. A year ago, June, we also moved into another WashU building, which houses our offices, our administrative offices, our rehearsal hall, and all of our production and technical shops.
Oh, that's convenient.
It's very convenient, and it's there in the Loop. So we're located at Olive and Kingsland.
Oh, yeah.
And then we perform at the Edison, which is been convenient. We've been performing there actually probably close to 15 years now. Originally, we were doing 1 show a season.
And that was often in the fall when you were not able to use the
Grandel, the old Grandel.
Right.
Yeah, we would perform there in September. We would open, so we would have a fall slot at the Edison, and did some wonderful, wonderful productions there.
Yes.
Tell Me Something Good Before, The Gospel at Colonus, Boosman and Lena. And then in that slot, sometimes we would do co-productions with the theater department.
Right.
And that's when we did productions like Ragtime and Hairspray.
One of my favorite productions that I've ever seen of yours, that Ragtime.
Yes, it was, a production that neither the PAD would have been able to do or we would have been able to do alone.
Yeah.
And so we were able to come together and pool our resources. The university actually made an additional investment to the Performing Arts Department for that production, and we were able to really mount what some say has been one of the strongest productions in the history of the university.
Absolutely. Well, and the show is just such a rarity that to see it at all would have been a luxury, but to see it done that well.
Yeah, we got really, really lucky with some of the students that we cast in that production.
I was going to say, because you had both students and non-students.
Right.
We had you had your regular equity and adult professional people in there with that, which is a great thing about, I know the rep does that some too.
Right.
Or as a friend of mine calls it, the white rep does that. Although you're in it now.
Only in St. Louis, only in St. Louis. Yes. So we're doing 3 productions this year. We're up from 2 productions last year. Last year we did Pearly and Once on This Island at Edison.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, and so this season
2
we're doing
musicals.
2 musicals, right? We opened and closed the last season with musicals at Edison, and then did 3 shows in between at Harris Stowe.
Right.
And so this year we're just doing 3 productions at the Edison.
And what are the other 2?
The other 2 is a wonderful new play now, by Dominique Morisseau called Sunset Baby. Oh. And it's about a black revolutionary who has recently been released from prison, and he finds his daughter who he needs to reconcile with. His daughter has been estranged from her father and really has had no relationship with him growing up. And she really watched the demise and death of her mother and blames it all on her father. But she has this stack of love letters that her mother wrote to her father while he was in prison, but never mailed. And so now these letters have become a hot commodity. Scholars want them, book publishers want them, and they are letters to love letters to a black revolutionary. But the mother instructed the daughter when she left them to her to not sell them. It's a 3-character play, and so there's the daughter and her boyfriend. And they're sort of these little street hustlers. They sort of sell a little drugs, they sort of do a little stick up. But ultimately, the daughter just wants to get enough money so that she can travel the world. And then her father comes back into her life, and so she's got to deal with that. And on one level, it's really a touching story about a father trying to reconcile with his daughter. On the other hand, it's a really, really suspenseful play trying to figure out what's going to happen next with these letters.
Well, it sounds like they're also exploring some issues of politics.
Oh yeah, that's definitely, black revolutionary politics discussed, and for philosophical points of view of what the daughter thinks about what the father thought was so important to leave his family. And the father tries to explain to her that really what he was doing was protecting them. When there got to be too much heat on him, he had to distance himself from his family for their safety. And of course the daughter can't see that and doesn't understand it at all.
She lives in a different world, doesn't she?
Yeah. And then the final show of the season is going to be a new work that we are going to company develop. We're calling it The Family Reunion, in my father's house. And what we hope to do is to bring back a lot of the core company members from St. Louis Avenue days. For certain right now at this point, definitely Linda Kennedy, Jay Samuel, myself. We know that we've been having conversations about developing it. And Andrea Fry will come in to direct it.
Good.
And we're going to develop it as we go. And it will be the final show at the Edison. Really, really excited about it.
Yeah, well, I like the names you've mentioned.
Yeah.
In connection with it. Yeah, I mean, you have formed something of a company. I don't even want to call it a repertory company or what, but you have actors that we have all learned to admire and enjoy in their performances, but they're sort of a black rep company.
Right, there's a strong core, and I look at them as a company, but we call them the core.
Yeah.
And some of them are still here local, some are in Chicago, like Ron Connor and Kelvin Roston,
right.
Patrice McLean, and then there's some that are, bi-coastal, either they're in New York sometime or they're in LA, like Eric Kilpatrick and Antonio Fargas and A.C. Smith and those people, And then actually we also now have an Atlanta contingency with Andrea Fry and Charissa Watley.
Oh, Charissa's
from
living in
Atlanta. Yeah, she's from Atlanta.
Is she really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she came here to our intern program from Atlanta years ago. And
well, I hope she comes back for some.
Yeah, we're looking to have her back as well.
Yeah. Well, the time is flying here. There's so many more things we could talk about. I mean, your whole experience here, from, as you say, the 23rd Street days through the Grandel to the Edison and all of that. But and so the other two shows, you said the first one opens in just a couple of weeks. Actually.
Yes. Tell Me Something Good opens September 2nd, runs through September 20th.
And the other
Sunset Baby opens January 13th through the 31st, and the Family Reunion will run April 20th through May 1st.
So we got scattered through the year.
Right.
The pleasure to look forward to.
Yes,
Ron Himes, thanks so much for coming to join us on Turn the Aisle.
We'll be watching some of these productions from our Two Seats on the Aisle.
And we'll be watching the mail and the email for your thoughts about theater and this program and for items for the calendar.
Send them to Two on the Aisle, HEC TV, 3221 McKelvey Road, Bridgeton, Missouri, 63044, or by email to tota@hectv.org.
Join Deborah Sharn for more news about theater on the KDHX blog, Break a Leg, Theater in St. Louis and Beyond. And find more news about all the arts on State of the Arts on HEC TV on Sundays and Thursdays at 7 p.m.
Catch Bob's reviews on KDHX.
Catch both of us next time on cable and the web for the final flowering of summer theater.
We'll see you then.